There's something I want to talk to you about, something very secret.
Doesn't explain why UKIP and your cronies have been with the Russian ambassadors at their embassy and their homes and parties since 2012, does it?
I've never... Jason, I'm sorry, mate. I mean, I know this is all great fun, but I've never, ever been to the Russian embassy.
So there's no possibility that Sir John Halstead was passing secrets to Moscow?
Impossible. Out of the question.
You'd stake your reputation on it?
Without hesitation.
I see. Well, I'm afraid I have to tell you that for a substantial part of his career, he was a Russian spy.
The former Welsh leader of Reform UK has pleaded guilty to accepting bribes to make pro-Russian statements.
You must admit it was either incompetence or collusion.
Could a Russian spy stop reform? I'm talking about Nathan Gill because honestly I don't know what else you'd call someone taking money to push Moscow's line, and given how close Gill was to Nigel Farage, that raises serious questions. But instead of answers, we've seen a series of car crash interviews from reform activists fumbling to defend the indefensible. So in this video, we're going to break down those interviews and look at why the media and Labour have been so quiet about something this serious, and ask what happens when they finally start paying attention. The first car crash is with Zia Yousef on the BBC, and he's the chairman of Reform.
First time we've spoken to anybody from the party since your former leader in Wales pleaded guilty at the end of last week to bribery charges. That related to making statements in favour of Russia. The Prime Minister says your party is too close to Vladimir Putin, cozying up to Russia. His pleading guilty kind of will reinforce that in a lot of voters' minds, won't it?
Look, Nigel has been clear time and time again, and so all of us at Reform, we stand by Ukraine.
Does he? Because every time I've listened to him talk about Ukraine, it seems to be attacking Ukraine and suggesting they're the aggressor, and that Putin was essentially defending himself.
And I would say to that British MP who was looking to blame all of our woes on Putin, whether you like Putin, whether you choose to live in Russia or not, why on earth would you provoke Russia? Why on earth would you stick, push a stick, into that Russian bear? Because if you do, they're going to respond. Let's be aware that NATO is now directly under threat, not from Donald Trump, but from Juncker and the European Union, who want their own army.
Exactly. And the left in Europe has so much in common with the left here. They do want conflict with Russia. That's obvious. It's becoming clear in the United States. Why is that? What's the impulse behind that? What about Russia enrages them in a way that, say, North Korea and Iran do not?
Well, they have to have an enemy, don't they? And what Putin represents, of course, for all his faults, but he represents a strong leader who believes in his own nation. They call it nationalism, nationism. They talk about these things in pejorative terms. Of course, Putin doesn't like the European project, because the European project wants to make Ukraine, his next door neighbour, a member of an alternative political and military alliance. Come on, you can't blame him for that.
Let me just go back to my point. What are voters to make of the fact that your former leader in Wales has pleaded guilty to accepting bribes for making statements in the European Parliament in favour of Russia? What do they think about that?
Well, look, this is somebody who preceded my time in the party. I've never spoken to him. In fact, the first time I ever heard his name was in some news reports. This was not a major figure in the party.
In one of the nations of the United Kingdom.
Given he has pleaded guilty, I'm happy to say, obviously what he's done is appalling and totally unacceptable and treacherous. That is abundantly clear to anybody watching this programme and to all of us at Reform. But I go back to the original point. All that happens time and again is because this government is morally bankrupt.
Instead of the presenter trying to press the point that there's something dodgy happening here and potentially in Reform, Zia just takes over and starts talking about how bad the Labour Party are, when in fact he should really be pointing out how good Reform are at clearing out spies.
Anybody else in your party share his views?
Whose views?
Nathan Gill's views.
No, again, I've never the first time I'd ever heard his name or seen his name was in news reports.
Let me just be fair to you, because you can't necessarily see what's going out on screen. We've just shown our viewers some pictures of Nigel Farage with his arm around him, holding a union flag. They obviously knew one another pretty well.
Well, I don't think, whatever that footage is, Nigel meets tens of thousands of people on an annual basis, ultimately, and you know he can't be held accountable for the actions of every single person whom he comes into contact with.
But in particular, it's a big victory for Nathan Gill, our leader in Wales, an honest, decent, honourable man who's been loyal to me and the party at all times. Nathan, you've led UKIP Wales into this, and well done you.
Then came question time, where the Greens' Zach Polanski pressed Reform's chair on Gill. What happened next? The BBC shut down the conversation.
Zia said that Nigel Farage and Reform did not know who this man was. But Nigel Farage, including the day after Brexit happened, was pictured with 4 men behind him. One of them being former MEP for Reform, Nathan Gill. The man that Zia says no one knows who he was. So were you lying, or was Nigel Farage lying?
Zach, I'm afraid, if you want to use the word lie, let's be clear about something. You were lying. What I said is I have never met. I took over as chairman in the summer of last year. I will tell you, I have never met Nathan Gill. Most people in the senior leadership team have never really even heard of this guy.
Our first speaker is well known to you. He's been an MEP for the last 5 years. He's also, before that, he was a very successful entrepreneur. He employed over 200 people. Please welcome to the stage, Nathan Gill.
When the road goes rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said, 'cause you got a friend in me.
We are living history right now. We are making it. We are going to change politics in Britain.
Well, listen, I've just had lunch with Nigel Farage, and he told me that he is adamant that he believes that Article 50 will be invoked. He said if he thought it wasn't going to be, he would never have resigned today.
Yeah, you got a friend in me. Yeah. You got a friend in me.
One more time, what do we want? Brexit! When do we want it? Now!
Nigel Farage in the picture, or was he not?
Okay, I tell you what, hang on a minute.
People
This
who
is
are
about bribery from
Everybody there in the audience,
Nigel
can I just
Farage, my
say,
friend.
people
It
in
would
the
be
audience,
hundreds of
hang on,
thousands of
Zia.
people.
I appreciate you both feel really strongly about Nathan Gill. But I can see that people in the audience are going, you know, I'm not sure this is going to make an enormous...
bribery from Russia.
Right, okay,
okay. Our national
Zach,
security.
you've made your point, but I think there's other things that the audience wants to talk about.
It's astonishing because there's been a spy in Reform, the Brexit Party and UKIP for over a decade, and the BBC are just shutting down the conversation. But the other interesting thing is when you start digging around, as I've shown you, the ties are there, they're very clear, and Nigel Farage has parroted what Nathan Gill has said, but also what Putin's been wanting the West to do, and what Putin and the Kremlin have been saying. Up next, a councillor from Reform.
Ex-Wales Reform leader Nathan Gill took bribes to make statements in favour of Russia while a member of the European Parliament. It says Farage was stunned by ex-Wales Reform leader and the fact that he took bribes. He pleaded guilty. He will be sentenced. I think it's going to happen next month. Layla, there have been a certain number of scandals around some Reform councillors, for example, issues with vetting. But, I mean, this is on a different level, isn't it? I mean, how embarrassing is this for your party?
Well, he has not been a part of Reform since 2021.
You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me, yeah. If you got troubles, boy, and I got them too, baby, there isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together.
And we are very clear, he is a traitor to this country, and we need the full force of the law to step in. We were trailing at 1% at the time in Wales. We were never a party meant to go in government. I've never met him. So many people in Reform have never met him. And yes, he is a traitor to this country. Anyone who does that is a traitor and should be treated accordingly.
What is not being touched on, and the journalism needs to improve to do this, as well as the work of the MPs, is to go...
You must admit it was either incompetence or collusion.
How did Nigel end up working with this guy for almost a decade and not twig that he was some sort of spy? And the other question they need to be asking is, was Nigel parroting the same lines as Nathan Gill? Now, interestingly, Guy Verhofstadt, former Prime Minister of Belgium, was claiming that Farage was working with Putin when he was an MEP.
The extreme right-wing movement in Europe. Well, as your extreme right-wing friends, Marine Le Pen, Strache, Farage, Orban, are constantly plotting with and paid by Putin to destroy Europe. Well, hereby I challenge you to a one-on-one debate, as people have the full right to know what devil's plan you have in mind. Tell me where you want to do it. In Brussels? In Italy? I will be there.
So going back to the question I offered at the beginning of all of this, I asked, will a Russian spy stop reform? And something very interesting has happened over the last few months. Reform have had their surge, and it's just stayed at 31%. But the other thing I found interesting is that despite what you heard from Guy Verhofstadt, Nigel Farage has never threatened to sue him. But when it came to Wales starting to issue pamphlets questioning about the loyalty of Welsh reform, they then issued a legal threat. And that tells me they're spooked. The question is, will Labour and the Conservatives follow suit, or have they also been corrupted? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like and subscribe button. The more it gets pushed out, the more likely it is that this message will start to spread across the UK, and we might see the beginning of the end of the Reform Party and Nigel Farage. Once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon and YouTube subscribers. You keep this channel going and growing. If you enjoyed today's video, you might also like my book, Manufactured Fear, The Power of Division, available on Amazon, link in the description.